Professor Muhammad Bilhosin was elected to the position of Commissioner in charge of education, science, technology and innovation within the African Union. He had obtained the majority of the votes of the member states in the first round of the secret ballot. Bilhosin will have to oversee the implementation of policies, programs and strategies in education, science, technology and innovation, in accordance with the aspirations of Agenda 2063. Following this election, the Minister of Foreign Affairs, Ramtane Lamamra, expressed his warm thanks to his counterparts from the African Union member countries for their support and reiterated his confidence in Algeria and its constructive contribution to joint African actions. On the sidelines of the proceedings of the 39th session of the Executive Council of the African Union in Addis Ababa, Ramtane Lamamra had talks with his Nigerian counterpart, Geoffrey Onyeama. The heads of diplomacy of the two countries agreed to establish cooperation with other countries so as to create a climate favorable to the preservation of unity, peace and stability in Africa. This meeting was an opportunity to discuss bilateral relations and means of strengthening cooperation in several fields, in particular energy. The two parties reviewed the situation prevailing in the Sahel region and in the Saharan region.
Once again, the French news agency AFP has failed in its main role as a news agency by acting as a spokesperson for a terrorist and separatist organization, the MAK. In a news brief published on Thursday, documenting a press release of this organization, the agency clearly supported the activities of the MAK, which tries to undermine Algeria's national unity as a sovereign country. If this serious blunder is not new, the timing is certainly not a coincidence. It comes after the General Directorate of National Security thwarted a terrorist attack which was to be carried out by members of the MAK. An operation that resulted in the arrest of 17 individuals who were planning armed operations with the complicity of the Zionist entity and a certain North African country. By promoting the MAK, the French news agency has become a propaganda outlet, a platform of choice for an organization classified as a dangerous terrorist organization, inciting separatism and violence. If the AFP media release is in total contradiction with the ethics of the news reporting profession, it strongly confirms the involvement of certain lobbies that control the French news media, which aims at destabilizing certain countries, in particular Algeria, a country with unwavering historical positions. Maneuvers that serve agendas representing a bygone era. This media blunder comes only a few days after statements made by the French President Emmanuel Macron undermining the Algerian nation, whose origins are deeply rooted in a rich history of resistance, heroism and glory. But history and truths cannot be falsified, as stated by the President of the Republic, Abdelmajid Tebboune, who considers that the dignity of Algeria is a red line not to cross, while requiring France to fully respect its sovereignty. Behind a French facade that glorifies liberty and humanity, the reality of its colonial spirit unveiled on Tuesday, October 17, 1961. On this particular day, colonial France committed one of the most hideous crimes in the history of humanity. Thousands of Algerians went out on a peaceful protest, protesting the discriminatory curfew imposed by the French authorities. Our nationals faced a violent and bloody repression. Hundreds were killed or drowned in La Seine River in Paris by order of Maurice Papon. This criminal act is the embodiment of the French colonizers' hatred towards our nationals who, despite being far from their homeland, were still supporting the liberation war. The Algerian nationals working in France at that time highly contributed both financially and by joining the ranks of the National Liberation Front to our struggle for liberation and further unsettle the colonial forces. French anti-colonialists also hailed the Algerian cause and supported the liberation war. These massacres of October 17, 1961 came a year after the bloody protests of December 11, 1960. Thus, colonial France multiplied its barbaric acts, desperately trying to undermine the Algerian Revolution. It even led propaganda campaigns of misinformation. But to its great failure, the Algerian cause received the support of a large part of the international public opinion. Unfortunately, 60 years after these horrendous state crimes against humanity, these latter are still unpunished. Till this day, France still has not confessed to its crimes.
This year, a commemorative actions of the massacres of October the 17th, 1961 began weeks ago in France. 70 French cities commemorate these massacres as the unitary collective group organized a debate in the French Senate with the presence of many historians, personalities and senators. At the end of this meeting, 4 members of the Senate lodged a bill to establish national commemoration in France for the massacres of October 17, 1961. Recognizing the massacres of October 17, 1961 would mean that we succeeded in making these martyrs participate in the fight for true justice. Today, more than 70 cities in France will commemorate this very important metaphor, which is the demand for justice. Today, we are in a very important venue, which is the Senate of the French Republic. We have a conference called La Gangrène du Racisme. This conference is important for our struggle to recognize that October 17, 1961 is a heinous crime. The state is not well known when there is no truth, when they also do not allow people to know their true history. Dignity is respected as much as the individual is respected too. And if we do not know our history, we do not respect our country. History allows people to be respected, and this is dignity. We are Algerian French citizens, but we never forget where we came from. The unitary collective group will organize the demonstration that brings together nearly 100 associations and organizations that work for the recognition of this state crime. The procession will begin next Sunday from the Rex Cinema on the great boulevards of Paris at 3 p.m.
Algeria expresses its deep concern about the situation in Lebanon and its deep regret after the events that took place in the capital Beirut, which claimed the lives of many victims, according to a press release issued by the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. Algeria also calls on all Lebanese parties to be responsible and wise to preserve the unity of the brotherly Lebanese people, while insisting on the need to ensure the work of state institutions and to meet the citizens' aspirations for a dignified life. The Geneva Support Group for the Protection and Promotion of Human Rights in Western Sahara called on Friday the UN Secretary General to act strongly in favor of respect of human rights in Western Sahara, while criticizing his report on the situation in the occupied territories. In the refugee camps of Ekdimizik, which is located about 12 kilometers east of the occupied region of La'youn, the Sahrawi people commemorate the aggression of the Moroccan occupation forces against Ekdimizik camps. A violent attack took place against the Sahrawi citizens. These events were witnessed by a number of representatives of non-governmental human rights associations. The attacks of the Moroccan occupation forces on Ekdimizik is a crime against humanity, and the revival of this terrible incident reflects the reality of the Sahrawi people. In addition to the revival of this painful incident by politicians, journalists and delegations in solidarity with the Sahrawi cause, a documentary film and video clips about the aggression against the camp were shown on this occasion.
Music was a very important moment in the resistance of the Sahrawi people.
In 2010, a large number of Moroccan citizens in the city of Laayoune expressed their solidarity with the Sahrawi people who rejected colonialism and the legitimate right of the Sahrawi people to freedom and self-determination. The Moroccan regime has tried to use all repressive methods to silence a people which is only demanding its independence.